I was raised, I was born in Papua New Guinea, so I didn't really have, that much opportunity to kind of, I guess, go out and live would you call it a normal childhood? If you grow up in Australia or New Zealand, you go out with your mates and play in the park. I couldn't really do that.
What is it that keeps us coming back to sport? It's the moments, the magic, the people. In this episode, I'm joined by Robbie Feldmann, a seasoned sports producer and commentator with 2 decades of experience in TV and radio across New Zealand and Australia. These days, you'll hear him on football coverage for Channel 10 and Paramount Plus, or calling the odd Shoot Shield rugby match. But Robbie's story isn't your typical rise to the mic. For years, he preferred to be the one behind the scenes, building others up. But now he's stepping forward, owning his voice, taking on new challenges, and chasing the dream of being a full-time commentator. And he's doing it with humility, passion, and a deep respect for the craft. Today, we chat about those moments in sport that grab us and never let go, how sport connects people and builds communities, why good mentors, and also being one, matters now more than ever, and how storytelling brings it all together. It's a relaxed, honest conversation about confidence, legacy, and following your calling, even if it takes time to figure out exactly what that is. So if you're a sport-loving bloke who's learning to back yourself a bit more, this one will hit home. Let's dive in. I'm Ian Hawkins, and this is Sport is Life. The purpose of sport, as I see it, is to see your vision become a reality. Find your voice, create strong connections, and learn to trust your body. How are you, Robbie?
Good, Ian. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honour to be here.
You're welcome, mate. It's great to have you on. Looking forward to hearing more about your story. I know we've had a fair few chats, but from more of that professional perspective, looking forward to it. You're another one of my mates from the old Fox Sports days, so it's good to tap into that network. How did you end up at Fox Sports?
Yeah, it was a place I'd always kind of wanted to be at. I knew having grown up in New Zealand, I was working at Sky Sport. I had a girlfriend at the time who had moved to Sydney, and we did the long distance relationship for a while. And then eventually kind of went, I have to be over there, because I kind of knew there was more opportunities, particularly with sport.
Yep.
And sport's something I'm mad crazy about. It was just the place I had to be. So I kind of always knew I'd end up there. I didn't really have an end of sorts. We had somewhat of a relationship professionally with my bosses, my EPs, executive producers. But there was no real leg up. It was go over, see what happens. Found a way in eventually. There was at the old Piermont building, a job opened up with the digital team. Basically, it wasn't as what they sold in the job ad. It was like video journalist, but really it was just uploading videos into news articles on the website. But as it turned out, like talking with the team were wonderful, but they were like, you'll be here 6 months and then you'll find something else. And that's kind of what happened. Yeah. And by the time we moved to our time, and I got the producer's job up in rugby and kind of went from there. And that was about 2012.
Yeah, wow. I think what most people's, if they were there sort of in those earlier days, that's a lot of how they got in there, something like that. I was in the tape library back when tapes were still a thing. So you just take what you get when you get into a place like that.
Exactly.
You talked about you being a massive you're sport crazy. Like, have you got a favourite? Because I know now in production and also in commentary, it's all about the moment. Have you got a favourite sporting moment from your lifetime?
I've got several.
Share a couple of them. Yeah.
It was funny because there was one time with Sky on your email signatures and your business cards, you had, your favourite sporting moment was a thing. A lot of people went, All Blacks Rugby World Cup. I was one of the few who went all whites qualifying for the 2010 World Cup. I was working the night that we qualified, beat Bahrain in 2009, and that was still that moment. Being inside a broadcast truck, but still, the moment Mark Paston, I clearly remember, Mark Paston saved a penalty, and the cameras shook just with the packed stadium celebrating. I'm getting chills just thinking about it now. Like I call it a moment in TV, and I've had a couple of those, but that's clearly my favorite. Just you know it's something big when you can see it physically on the TV where the camera's shaking. Yeah, that's my number one. But I've got a lot. It's hard to label just one. I've got I was at a Cricket World Cup final, which we lost, which wasn't fun, but to be there was still pretty epic. Yeah. And that cost me an arm and a leg to get there too.
That was the one in the UK.
No, the one in Australia, in Melbourne, the MCG, right. 2015, I think it was. Just on a hope. Ask anyone who had a ticket, had a flight attendant friend who went, "Yep, I've got some sponsors who've given us a bunch of tickets. You just pay for my day, and you'll come with me." I'm like, done.
How good!
But yeah, that was a very expensive trip.
And all over when Brendan McCullum's out in the first over.
Oh. I love the innovation of the light up stumps, but when you're in 100,000 capacity stadium up in the nosebleeds, and you see it from that far away, and you think, oh man, this is going to be a long day.
Yeah,
but it was fun to be there still, and I can say I've been to a Cricket World Cup final.
Yeah, I had to change flights because 2009 Para were nowhere. They weren't going to make the finals, so we booked holidays for the grand final weekend, starting on the Friday or the Saturday or something. And then when they had that late run, it cost me. Actually, I won't tell you the amount, but it was a lot of money to change those flights to 2 days later, because I must have bought the Super Savers or whatever. But again, they lost, but totally worth it, because just the whole experience, like it's magic.
You don't know when it's going to happen again, so you have to go.
That's it. And actually, when you talked about the All Whites, it reminded me with the Socceroos, like I'd been to that many heartbreaking games, and I nearly didn't go in 2005 because I'm like, can I sit through another one if it all goes pear shaped? So I'm very glad I did, because it's the same thing. Like I see footage or whatever, and I get the chills straight away. Awesome. You're about to dive into Netball World Cup. Is that what you were about to say?
Oh yeah, that's just I've been there. New Zealand lost that one as well. That was it was the same year. It wasn't a good year for New Zealand sport because it was Rugby World Cup final as well, and I didn't want that to be the third, because things come threes. Yeah. That would have been the third thing. Thankfully, we got that one across the line. But yeah, like there's a lot of moments because I'm, as I said, sports mad, and I support a lot of teams across a bunch of sports. It's really hard for me to pick just one. I got one in everything basically.
Yeah. No, I hear, and that, to me, that's one of the great parts of being a sports fan, is that those moments when they're just etched in your memory, for whether you were there or whether you're watching, who you were with, the how you feel like when it all happens. As a caller as well, and I know you're only in the early days of being a commentator, but do you have a moment? Doesn't necessarily have to be this huge global moment, but do you have a moment there when you were calling that was just like, oh wow, that was pretty cool?
Yeah, there was Australia Cup last year. Australia Cup's the big knockout tournament, so any team can enter. You can end up playing an A-League side. It's like the FA Cup in England, if you know that well.
Yeah.
Australia Cup last year, Olympic Kingsway game. It's a team from Western Australia, but they're an NPL team, and they've got this striker named Liam Boland, who is now the record goal scorer in the tournament. He's scored more goals than any other player, professional, otherwise. Yeah, and I was the one that he scored 2 on that night, and that took him past Besart Berisha, who's one of the legends of the A-League.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, I should have had a line. I I kind of sit between, living in the moment or preparing for the moment when it happens. And looking back on it, I could have done a little bit better with the call, but just to still have that moment was pretty awesome. And I've seen the odd interview here and there, and you hear it. That's your voice. That's kind of cool. Like to be linked with that, I think forever for him, because he's a great person as well. I've watched him play, listened to him talk. Wonderful human being, legendary player. So for me to share that moment with him, I think that's probably one of my highlights. I've managed to call a couple of test matches on radio, which was great fun. Actually, that was another one. Jack Maddox on his debut for the Wallabies against the All Blacks. I can't remember what year exactly, but that was a sweeping. Started with New Zealand possession, lost it. Wallabies turned it over on their own line, and they ended up going 100 meters with Maddox scoring under the posts, and that was pretty cool. Like that was my first test try.
Yeah, awesome.
There's a few moments like that, but I think the Liam Boland one, because that's television. That's my ultimate kind of dream, is to be a TV commentator. I think that's probably my number one at the moment. Yeah.
Awesome. A confession to make. I might have told you this story, and I'm not sure if I've told it on the podcast or not, but when I was working in programming in at Fox, and we talked to the guy at Sky New Zealand regularly, just sharing broadcast details, and the Tall Blacks beat us in the basketball, and they sent a picture of the trophy or the celebration or something. And this is probably the last year the Wallabies won the Bledisloe, and we won it 4 years in a row. So I sent them back a picture of the trophy, and I said, just in case you've forgotten what this looks like. And I think I put a curse on because I don't think we've won since.
So it's your fault. Yeah, okay.
It's definitely my fault. Oh, so good. So Robbie, you said you're sports crazy. Is that like from day dot? Like you've always just been into it?
I think so. And it's when you asked me on, I started thinking about why that is, and I couldn't actually give you a reason, because I'm an only child. My parents aren't really that sporty. They watch it, but they don't get into it as much as I do. And where I was raised, I was born in Papua New Guinea, so I didn't really have, that much opportunity to kind of, I guess, go out and live would you call it a normal childhood? If you grow up in Australia or New Zealand, you go out with your mates and play in the park. I couldn't really do that in Port Moresby.
Yeah.
I was kind of just in a compound, basically, 4 flats. If there was another kid there, I'd maybe play with them, but it was very much by myself. Yeah. So I kind of lived these sporting moments through whatever was coming on TV. And I could remember seeing highlights of Man United against Queen's Park Rangers would have been 92, 93 as one of my earliest sporting memories, and kind of went, oh yeah, I like red. I watch this team, and it's kind of stuck from there, and I still support United. But yeah, I just got into it. I loved kicking a ball around, even if it was by myself. Like I played team sports at primary school. Yeah. But yeah, I couldn't really tell you where this sporting bug really came from. And I try to explain it to my wife now, and I just can't.
Just you're talking about P&G living in a compound. Maybe you'd be an ideal candidate to help them set up over there when P&G goes to the NRL and needs to set up their own compound with all these sort of players. That must have been an experience in itself, like gated community, I imagine.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's an interesting story. It's an interesting, backstory, I guess. But it's kind of, I just found it normal. That's what I had. That's what I grew up with. It was like I went to an international primary school, so I was, as a non, I guess, Indigenous person, I was in the minority.
Yeah.
Which it didn't really bother me, obviously, at the time. Like I just go to school and play around with my friends. But yeah, to have that as as an upbringing, it kind of makes things a little different. Like when I eventually moved to New Zealand, I was 12 or 13, so I started high school in Auckland, and yeah, I could tell I was a little bit different. just from where I started to where, coming into, I guess, an already established, by that age anyway, I guess, a lot of your mates, you kind of move up with them. And I'm the fresh meat, the new kid coming in from overseas. It's been different for me, but yeah, I don't think I'd change it, to be honest. Like, it's pretty cool. Like, I'll always represent PNG wherever I can. I'm proud of what they achieve.
Yeah.
The same with, because I'm part Filipino, I'm part Swiss, I'll represent them as much as I can. But yeah, PNG was that was a vibe. That was for sure. Some interesting things.
I bet. Right, so you mentioned your hit high school. When does the idea spring to mind that working in sports television might be a thing?
Probably wasn't until university, I think. I'd done reasonably well at high school, but I think sort of by my senior years there, I'd kind of, I kind of realized I'm not going to really make it as a pro sportsman. I was handy, but I was never, not great.
What was your go-to sport?
Football. I was football and cricket up until my football coach kind of went, you need to choose here, which, looking back on it, I didn't really need to, but he wanted me to. So kind of ended up picking and sticking with football. But yeah, like I was always going to be a career number 2 goalkeeper. Like, I had a New Zealand rep in front of me pretty much the whole time. I was never going to supplant him. I was okay. I played rep football, I think, 3 or 4 games for the Auckland region under 20s.
Yeah, wow.
So, I'm happy with that, to be honest, because I knew my limits as a player. But by the time I started university, there was I knew something with media, and then I knew in year 3 at university there's a sports television course.
Yep.
So that was kind of, I'd aim for that and kind of work backwards. What do I need to do to get to that point? But then, even then, like, I look back at my uni life, I probably should have taken a more hands-on film production course. I did a lot of theory. My sporting TV career is kind of backdoor the whole way. Like, there was my degree had nothing to do with me getting a job at Sky. So I kind of laugh about that. I was very lucky, but I knew doing that sports paper, it was a stage 3 sports course, and there was an internship involved with Sky at the time, so that would have been cool to do. Did that, but yeah, as far as once I got to that point, I think I knew I wanted to be involved there. I didn't know exactly how, in what capacity, because I don't think I'd really thought about being a commentator by that stage either. I just knew watch sport for a living would be a dream goal. So do whatever I can to get to that point. I thought logging was the dream job, and I still think it is, really. Like,
AI probably does that now, does it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely recommend logging as a good entry point for anyone who wants to take up something with sports media production. That's a great way to start.
Absolutely. I did a bit of part-time logging on the side for a while I was in the library, because I just wanted extra cash. But what you said there about watching sport for a living, like that was a big part of it. I probably took it for granted a bit, but like, what an absolute privilege to be able to sit there. And I never missed a world sporting event for 18 years, like everything. Yeah. And then now people go, oh, what's happening with this? Well, I didn't even know it was on. Like, oh, mate, best job.
It's the best, yeah.
Yeah. If you're that way inclined. I know that wasn't for everyone, but most people, when there was anything big on, like, you could hear the cheers from like right around the office, right?
Absolutely, and that's, you're still in a very small way, you're part of it, like, because, like, ultimately with logging, it's for editors to know this happens at this point, so you can kind of cut out the crap and just go straight there. So I knew there's a reason, logging is quite important for someone. So, I figured do the best you can at that. It'll open a door somewhere. I kind of always knew that would be the case. So, yeah, that's how it kind of all started.
So how did you get the gig in the rugby production department then?
So that was fast forwarding to once I'd moved to Sydney, did my 6 months in the Fox website, the digital team. And what had originally happened was there was a role that opened up with the football department. But as I eventually found out, they'd already kind of promised that to someone because they didn't know I was there. And I'd already had, would have been 5 or 6 years worth of experience with Sky as an associate producer. So I put my hand up, had a chat with the football EP at the time, Murray Shaw, and was quite surprised. It's like, well, you're far too good to be down there, down in the dungeon at the time. I'll let me see what I can find for you. And then eventually the rugby team, Simon G, one of the great executive producers, had a chat, brought me up to see Gary Burns, which was another experience. And it was kind of, welcome to the team. And that's where I first met Swaney, who was on the show a couple of episodes ago. But that's kind of how I got into the rugby team.
Love it. I think, again, taking things for granted, we probably, as much as in any workplace, there's always complaints about different things going on, but we probably took for granted. Well, I know I did, just how many good people. I'm actually catching up with Muzza this week, coincidentally, but just how many good people were in that environment. And I guess thinking about it, 90% were sports fans, first and foremost, who just happened to work in the industry. So good.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the amount of incredible humans I've met across Fox and in where I am now at Channel 10, there are some absolute gems in the TV world. There's a few rough ones as well, but luckily for me, the people that I've met and come across, they've been nothing but awesome.
Yeah. So let's kind of get a bit deeper into the thought of being a commentator. If you listen to some of the backstories from some of the greats, like they talked about Ray Warren, he just was always going to be a caller. He used to set himself up and race marbles down the hill, different coloured marbles, and call them as if it was a race call. And I can't remember Bruce McAvaney's story, but it was something similar in like just always being there. It doesn't sound like that was the case for you, but what was there a sort of a moment, like you said, you kind of thought about it, but was there something that captured you that you went, actually, that'd be me. I reckon that's something I'd love to do.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back on it now, I do remember the odd occasion when I was really young at primary school. I do some fake calling while I was playing.
Yeah.
So maybe the seed was planted there, but it didn't really kind of germinate. But there were a couple of times as I was getting older, I knew I think I could have a crack at this. And then there was I do remember one occasion, there was a All Whites versus Japan friendly one year, and the world feed commentator was the most boring, uninterested, just lack of passion. He's clearly there just getting paid, couldn't pronounce the name right, and I just went, this is a joke. Like, he's got the best job in the world, the best seat, might have been in a dark TV room miles away from the actual game, but give us something. Yeah. Because that adds to the experience of watching it. And just listening to that, I went on a Facebook rant. I remember this is the reason why I kind of want to chase this and try this and see if I'm any good at it. And I think that's kind of where that started. But then when I first got my actual chance was actually through Andrew Swain, who recommended me He said there's some guy from a community radio station who's reached out, just looking for some, shoot shield, extra people basically jump on, have a go.
Yeah.
Give that a crack, and that's kind of where that started. I think that would have been about 2016, I guess. So that was a pretty regular weekend. I'd go to a club ground as a co-commentator initially, and then when the opportunity came, I'd do games myself, and that's where I kind of went, I reckon I could do this. I've got something here. I think I'm, without wanting to sound arrogant, I think I'm better than a couple that I've heard. I reckon I could do a decent job. I reckon I could do a good job. And I'm at that point now where I've had a taste, and I can seriously give this a crack, I think.
Oh, absolutely. As a unbiased sports fan, I've listened to some of your football calls, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know what's going on. And you talked about the pronunciation and the passion. Like, I guess to a certain degree that is a lot of the experience. Like, if you've ever sat down and watched sport with the sound down because for whatever reason, like, it's just not the same experience. And yeah, so it's really interesting that you said that you got that from listening to someone else and thinking, Also interesting that you thought back about that time when you were younger, because I think that's, for the people listening, it's like sometimes the thing we should be doing is kind of been hiding there all along. Like
the whole time,
I was forever kind of telling people what to do. like I remember one of my coaches. I don't think it was sport. I think it was a birthday party, and it was like, he said to my dad, "Oh, he likes to organise people, doesn't he?" And I took that as a real. I was offended by that because I thought it must have been a bad thing. But yeah, I think it's that example of you sharing some of those sort of snippets of what's gone before. There's always sort of clues, and in that moment where you talked about the passion, I'd love to read that Facebook rant, by the way.
Wow.
It's definitely something you should dig out.
I'll see if I can find it. Yeah.
It's there somewhere. Also, just you talked about, like, sometimes with things you just got to do it a few times, right? Like we build up for new experiences and we create this whole fear and story around it, but like sometimes confidence just comes once we do it a few times, right?
Yeah, exactly. And initially, I'd always kind of taken the view that if I'm not any good, someone will tell me. Yeah. So just give it a crack. And I do kind of wish I'd cottoned onto that a little earlier, because I remember one time at Sky, there used to be like a kids' sports show that was on at like 9 or 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. And it was basically just reading links between, pre-cut highlights.
Yeah.
And the producer asked me to do it. And I would have been, I don't know, 20, 21, something like that.
Yeah.
And kind of just hesitated and went, yeah, but nah. When looking back on it, I should have just gone, shit, yeah, give me a go. So like things like that I do, that's a professional regret. And I think I could have done that quite easily looking back on it. Trajectory might have been different by that point, but it's 100%. It's time on the tools. The more you do it, the more you learn, the better you get. And yeah, it's one thing. I think calling something that you'll never get, bored with, because you're constantly learning. There are new players coming in, so there's new stories to learn, new names to pronounce, things like that. It's not a boring job at all for me.
No, I love that idea of the variety and the just the intricacies of it. Like, again, it's like the lens that we watch sport through. Like we all kind of come at it from our own unique angle. But that's the beauty of it. There's just so much, so many layers to it. And,
totally.
Go on.
It's just like it's beyond what happens on the field. It's every player has a story, a backstory to them, and if you can find that nugget and kind of just drop it into a coverage, someone out there will go, "Oh, I didn't know that. That's really interesting." And whether that leads to, I don't know, them doing more background on a certain player, kind of end up following them through their career. Awesome. Everyone's got a story, and I'd love to be the one to kind of. I enjoy digging into those, looking for those nuggets and finding something random, interesting, and what can turn out to be quite valuable in the end.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Swaney said the same thing about storytelling. Like that's why I love doing this, like sharing people's stories, and this is how humans have connected for thousands and thousands of years. Like there's just so much value to it. And I know one thing that you're passionate about is the stories of the people that have helped you. I noticed you did a glowing endorsement for Simon Hill, who's recently stepped away here in Australia. He's been that voice for the Socceroos and for the A-League for so many years, for all those defining moments. Like what, if not him specifically, because I'm not sure exactly just how much he had an influence on you, but like for him and any other like key mentor you've had over the journey, like what have they given you that they didn't have to, but it's had such a left such a indelible mark on who you are now and how you operate?
Well, it's a combination of things. I mean, one, it's their time. Like they've allowed me to pick their brains. Similar to Swaney, like being in the rugby team, I worked a lot with Greg Clark, who is an absolute professional, meticulous. Puts in hours beyond the day to prepare for a game.
And just one of those people in the industry that he had time for every person, no matter where you worked, no matter what your role was, like a genuinely good human.
Absolutely. And, similarly with Simon, being a football fan, he was the voice that I kind of remember growing up with. I'd followed the A-League pretty much since day one. So he's, indelibly linked to the league. All the big moments, well, the vast majority of the big moments are his voice. Yeah. So to be able to work with him, I think, it was so good. And even better personally when football finished up at Fox and was going to go to Channel 10. I can't remember how the exchange started, but I was messaging Shim for something, and I just mentioned, I'm coming across as well, and he replied, and I wish I kept the reply somewhere. I've told him this. Yeah. He responded back with, "Mate, bloody awesome news! You're one of the good ones. Great to work with you." And I went,
how good's that?
That'll do me. I'm done. Yeah. That's to have that from someone you kind of. Yeah.
That's awesome. Sorry, go on.
No, sorry, just internet's playing up again. To get that from someone you kind of idolize, not necessarily used to use that word, someone you look up to and admire professionally, to hear that from them, like that's that'll stick with me for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like he didn't have to do that, but he would know the impact of saying that. And it's also like, how good is that when you get that from someone like that maybe, like I know I've at different times over the career gone, is anyone actually noticing? Like, and then you get that feedback from someone who, of that stature, who's giving you that sort of feedback. That must have given you a huge boost of confidence as well.
Oh, 100%. And even more so recently when he announced he's heading back to the UK, so he's finishing up in Australia. I sent him a pretty long WhatsApp message just privately and basically said, "Thank you for everything. You are commentary goals for me. working with you's been a dream, all that sort of gushing stuff, blow smoke up him, and then he came back with, just thank you, keep doing what you do. The sport needs voices, and yours is one. You got the knowledge, you got the expertise, you can do this. So that's another one, and I'll definitely keep that. I'm going to screenshot that message and keep it. So
yeah, how good. And it's also a reminder for us to make sure we pass that on to other people sort of coming through. Like, there are times in business when I was starting out where I was like completely lost, and I was just looking for someone to take me under their wing, because that's how it had always been, whether it be work environment or a sport environment. There was always someone that did that, and it just never really eventuated until probably about 5-6 years ago when someone did that. So if I come across someone starting out in business, I'm more than happy to give them time and energy to help them get going, because just, again, it's that paying forward what either we didn't receive or what we did receive that was just so huge. So, yeah, I mean, again, it just shows what a great human Simon is as well, so that's cool. We always can remember sort of important people from our life. There's always a teacher or a coach or someone that left a mark that was positive, similar to what you described. I mean, did you have someone in your life when you were younger that had that sort of impact for you?
Yeah, I did. And it was in 4th grade, so I was still in Port Moresby at the time. Mr. Ellis was his name, and I can remember he would have been the first teacher that was just different to what I'd had previously, even at that time. So I would have been 10, I think.
Yeah.
But he was very artistic, musical. Like, he had a guitar and he played something in class every day, and there wasn't really, from what I can remember, I'm sure there were, but there weren't ever any boring moments. Like, I don't. That was one of my favorite years at school, and I can't really, because it was so different, and I kind of think of myself as a little bit different. That's probably one reason why it resonated with me. Like, it was just, there's the path that everyone will kind of follow. How about you try going this way to get to the same endpoint?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And it was fun. And that's, here's one I do kind of think about every now and again and come back to. Like, I look back my primary school time, that was one year that I really loved, as I said. Yeah.
That's so cool. And I love also that it plays into what we talked about earlier, the moments. Like, he gave you a heap of those moments. You already sort of had that seed planted around calling, and we talk about it a lot now with you and how you like to do things and those big moments in sport. So again, we're starting to see that pattern of the thread that's always been there. Very cool. You are, as you said, you've always been an A-League fan. It must have just given you so much pride, talking about moments when Auckland FC get admitted to the A-League. I know you've done a trip home to have that experience as well. Tell us a little bit about why that's so important for you as a football fan that spent a fair bit of time in Auckland.
Yeah, and I can even link it to being raised in the islands. Like, there's no professional team. People I like, even people I've just come to meet, particularly English people, they have a team and they follow them from day one.
Yeah.
Being a football fan from New Zealand, we didn't have that. So we'd watch Premier League, we'd watch Serie A, Spanish League, and follow a team. You'd have the local clubs, obviously, that you'd go and watch, but there was no team that I could really, plant my flag.
Yep.
And the previous iterations of the Auckland professional teams were terrible. So didn't have much to kind of go on with that. So then when Auckland FC come on and come to be, I I was so happy because it's, football is a sleeping giant in New Zealand. It had been 20 years since the biggest city. It's the biggest city in Oceania Oceania in Australia that didn't have a professional team.
Yeah, right.
And 20 years was far too long. And, I understand the reasons why. Like, it's a very fickle market and, but what Auckland FC did from the very start was engage with everybody, local community, foreign communities as well. Basically, anyone who's a football fan, we want you involved. Come to a game. We'll make it interesting, which is why, they put up Ferris wheels at the ground. They truck in sand to make a little beach at one end.
Yeah.
Do all sorts of these, out of the box kind of things just to make it interesting for families as well as, foreigners who live in Auckland. Like, you watch a game on TV, you'll see Colombian flags, South American countries, Asian flags. It's the A-League hasn't seen that before. So to be able to tap into that. But for me personally, as a football kid, that's the team from where I'm from.
Yeah.
So I have to be involved with this in any way. And, I bought the jersey. I do the fans podcast every now and again when the season was involved, was on. Sorry, I was involved with that. Yeah. And that was good fun because it's just talking football, talking about the team.
Yeah.
So hopefully that doesn't hurt my professional, there's claims of bias going forward, but, I'll state from the start, I'm an Auckland fan, but yeah.
I think everyone that's been involved in sport, somewhere they followed a team at some point. Even in professional players. I was listening to Nathan Highmarsh the other day talk about he grew up being a mad, passionate Bulldogs fan, but then he played for Paro, which is kind of like the enemy. So that's just sport. Like, we have to adapt, but I think that's that passion that as a supporter is what gets us in it in the first place.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about that experience, because I remember seeing a bit of your footage that you recorded while you were over there, and just the colour and you said something really important, is that they engaged everything. All of the teams that have done a great job in recent seasons in any sport, and particularly in that real high level is with the manager as well. It's when they engage the community, when they engage the fans, it changes everything, right? Like that's sport gives us that sense of belonging, that tribal nature, and if the club's doing that, like it creates an atmosphere that's not quite like anything else. So for you to go home, I know home is a lot of different places for you, but like home in a sense, and go back and get to experience that must have been wild.
That was so good, yeah. And believe me, I'm still paying for it now with my wife. I cashed in all the brownie points I possibly could have had.
Totally worth it.
Yeah. Well, I think my wife was fairly heavily pregnant at the time. So I was like, I just have to go. I have to go. Thankfully, she said, fine.
She's a legend. Yeah.
Yeah, she is. Absolute legend. But yeah, it was for the second New Zealand derby. First one in Auckland. The first one was in Wellington. The second derby was in Auckland, so it's the first Auckland derby. I had to be there. Like, I knew I was kind of probably my last chance really to do anything like that before number 2 came along. But yeah, to go there, like I took my mates, I showed them around beforehand, like I took them up into the commentary box, so to be able to give them behind the scenes experience as well. But
yeah,
just being there, absorbing the passion, the color. Again, I never had that growing up, so to be a part of that now, it just fills me with such pride. Like, and the fact that it happened pretty much every home game as well just shows how much the people had been craving that.
Yeah.
So it kind of does burn that I can't do that every week.
Yeah.
Because, I'm more often than not working on games professionally anyway. But yeah, it's still like, I'm glad that it's there, because as a sport, it's always battled behind cricket and rugby in New Zealand. So I just want to see the sport flourish. And the fans are so passionate. They turn up every week, make noise for 90 minutes, and you can see it lifts the team, no end. So I'm really happy that there's a presence on the landscape for New Zealand and the league as well. It's, and I'm glad we won the premiership.
Yeah, and it's added so much to the league. I just hope they can sustain it, because you look at the different times for the Australian clubs in the A-League where they've had that, but then it's passed. Like I went to a Wanderers game this season. There wouldn't have been 10,000 people there. It was quiet. It was really disappointing, actually, as a football fan to see it. And I know sometimes results can have a big impact on that, but like if you create the right environment, like God, I've been a para member for a long time, and a lot of those years have not been good, but we're there every week, right? Because of the experience and But if they, so let's hope they can hang on to that.
Yeah.
Do you have a thought on, like, I know you call games because you love it, but have you've also been in production and that creative side. Have you thought about what sort of the next level of evolution of sports production might be to bring people even closer? And I don't mean camera angles or anything like that, but something that's going to create that same community and that same sense of connection through the work that you do?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. Short answer is no. I hadn't really thought about it because I kind of love what I do and I focus on that. But always knowing that the things evolving, particularly with production and the way technology is changing, it's a pretty fast moving landscape. But I always think it just comes down to the individual, the professional athlete. It's, for me, how you create a connection is you connect with the player. And you kind of, that for me, that's how it starts anyway. Like, you've got your team that you support, but, you kind of hitch your wagon to someone. And I think that's now, like, that's a modern trend now.
Yep.
Fans, viewers will support a player. Might be a hot take. I think they support a player more than they support the team. I'm not saying, for someone of our kind of ilk, our age, where we're tied to the team. I think it's the younger fans, particularly, with social media. They'll follow an individual wherever they go.
Yep.
Even if they end up joining a rival team, they'll still support the player. So I think the story of that player is the most important thing now. Sure, they still need to be, good at what they do and perform, every week. But to create that connection is how you draw in new fans, I think. So it's how we tap into that as a broadcast, which is where I think doing the background, particularly for commentators, even as a producer, doing pre-match or post-game shows, if you can find something to latch on to, this player recently got married, for example, how's that going to affect them today? Has a blinder, scores a hat-trick, post-game interview. Well, geez, you must be flying. You've got married, all that sort of thing. So you find that thread, and then you can kind of keep that going throughout a broadcast. And you keep the viewers, and you get them coming back for more. And it's how I think it's how you tell that story is what is going to be most important for sports broadcasting, I think, anyway.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Was it you that shared the post of the was it the sort of monologue before the A-League grand final? The guy did
possibly. Yeah.
He was just talking. He was talking up the game, but he was just talking about football and the passion, and it was like, wow, that's the sort of stuff. I mean, I guess that's what Feel Good used to do before Origin. It's like some of the stuff they're doing on Fox League, and and we've had this conversation before. I haven't got a Paramount subscription, and but is that something you guys do a lot of in the lead up to games now with the A-League?
I mean, we try to. It kind of depends on, how big the game is. We can always do more, but I think it's just how that evolves, because how do I explain it? Traditional viewing habits are changing. Like, you don't tend to kind of sit and watch a game as much anymore. It's more about the highlights that you see on the phone. So how you're able to kind of get that story into a 30-second highlights clip, or, if there's an interesting interview that happens, we try and get a social team to clip that up, put that up online, so then it's out there. It's a hard one, for sure.
It is, and no doubt that people are looking for the fast pace. That the mini versions of things are a big hit. But I learned this a few years ago, and they were talking about, it might have been Gary Vaynerchuk. He was talking about short form versus long form, and he's like, people saying long form instead. He goes, if I was to release a 13-hour Star Wars movie, the big fans of Star Wars would be there. Now, that might have dated a bit now, because I know some of the diehards have gone a bit off what's unfolded in that particular area for, over the last few years since it went to Disney. But, the point's there, right? It's like the long form stuff. The people still want to hear good stories. And so
absolutely,
I'd love to hear from you, not necessarily from broadcast, but if you've got a good sporting story, whether your own or just one you've heard about a footballer or just any area of sport.
Yeah, I think one that immediately springs to mind was Mason Cox at Collingwood.
Yeah,
I can't remember if it was his debut exactly, but I know it was an Anzac Day game. There had been a big kind of, thing. This American has come in and playing our sport. What's this all about? The big Texan. He gets the start for Collingwood, and then I think within a couple of minutes, he takes a mark and kicks the first goal in an Anzac Day game.
Yeah,
and you kind of go, "That's awesome!" Like, just the whole build up.
His whole family came as well. Was that right? Yeah,
I think for his debut, and just to kind of have that as a moment, I'm like, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah,
like someone who hasn't grown up with this sport, who's had to learn it, who's basically had to take himself out of his own comfort zone, move halfway across the world, try and crack a sport, where there's thousands of locals who are desperate to get that chance. He's earned his way there. He gets this moment. He takes it with both hands and he kicks it straight over the umpire's hat.
Yeah,
as the opening goal on probably the biggest game outside of the grand final. How can you not love that?
Yeah, and I think that's the stories we can identify with, not because we've been in those circumstances, but that underdog coming back from adversity. Like, that's some of the stories that I think really grabs a hold of people, whether it's the comeback story or the underdog story. It's why these bloody Queenslanders, when we're recording this, it's like it's the yeah, good on you. I noticed your colours. Origin 3. So when this goes out, we'll know who's won. But
yes,
again, it's the story. Like, it's how the whole thing was formed. Like, that's the stuff that we love, right?
Yeah, 100%. And you'll tune in for the game anyway. But when you've got something that kind of that you as a viewer would go, I might just keep an eye out for that. Or I might just see how this guy goes, or see how this player goes. And then the ultimate goal is to have that, as a producer, as a broadcaster, you kind of go, all right, let's try and plant this seed, see how it evolves through a game. Ultimately, you want something awesome to happen. And it does. And in Mason Cox's, that was his moment. And that was just such an awesome start for him, as an AFL player, as a person, and what he's gone on to achieve. So yeah, I do remember that one.
Yeah. I'll probably embarrass myself with the details here, but didn't he have a big opening quarter in a grand final as well? Or maybe
He did. Yeah.
Again, another great moment. I talk a lot about getting in the zone. Have you had a moment like that where you're calling games where you kind of like it's almost just happening on automatic pilot, and it's like you just feel how good it's going because you're just like everything's turning to gold?
Yeah, it has. There was a couple of good years doing Shoot Shield on radio. I'd kind of, I guess, graduated to be the lead caller. And this is community radio, so I'm not getting paid for this. There was no, it's purely for the love.
Yeah.
You turn up early, you set up yourself, you do the game, you pack down by yourself or with, whoever's there to help you on the day. But yeah, there was one particular year, like I got on a really good stretch of games, and it was getting into finals time, and it just, everything felt kind of easy. You knew the players really well because you'd done the whole season, so you've got this kind of back catalogue of information. You've got their stats, so you've seen them play several times, so you kind of know, the intricacies and the quirks. And yeah, I can definitely remember, maybe not necessarily one particular game, but I know that there was a stretch of games where I went, geez, this felt good. I nailed that. Really happy with how it turned out. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember results necessarily, but I just know the feeling of that felt good. I said all the right things. I didn't stuff up. I didn't swear. So, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be my fear. Just sort of suddenly speaking, like forgetting where you are and just getting lost in the moment. I love it. Let's come back to you, the sports person. Have you got a moment like that as well? I was having a bit of a talk with my brother. I'm trying to get him to come on and tell one of his stories, because we've joked about, those innings that we've played in cricket, usually after a massive night, that you have very, very low expectations, and then suddenly something clicks and suddenly you've smashed them all over the place. Have you got any stories like that where you're like playing, whether it's football or something else, where just gold?
Yeah, I've got a couple. One, so I'm an average sports person. I'm not terrible. I'm not great. I'm kind of sort of in between, like handy,
like most of us. Yeah.
Jack of all trades, master of none, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I played a lot of cricket through school, and my highest score is 67 not out. To this day, I'm adamant I would have made 100, but they declared. So
oh no,
so be it. I'm not bitter. But that was one day I was kind of flying, I was hitting it well. And normally my dad would just kind of, drop me off at the start of the day, bugger off, and then come back when I needed to get picked up. But he hung around. And that was one of the few times he kind of hung around. But with cricket anyway. He was there when I hit my 50, kind of just standing off to the side, and I kind of went, raise the bat. Yeah. Thank you. That was kind of cool. And with as far as the football goes, like as I said, I was a number 2, so I didn't really have too many magical moments myself as a player. But I do remember there was one pre-season game where I started, and we played the Auckland and national champs, Mount Albert Grammar, who we had ended up having a pretty good rivalry with at the time, because we weren't, when I was playing for my high school, St. Peter's College, we were second division. So we got promoted into the top tier. We were playing the likes of Auckland Grammar, Mount Albert Grammar. They're the top schools in the country, let alone in, Auckland competition.
Yeah.
There was a preseason game. I started, and we lost like 2-1. But I had an outstanding game. And basically my coach said, if you concede a goal, so he said to every player, if we concede, we're taking half your marks off. So he'd give us a grade out of 10. He goes, you, Feldman, did you concede today? Yeah, I conceded 1. All right, you got a 5. So I was like, so I had a 10.
Yeah, nice. Okay,
yeah. You're saying I was a 10? Yeah. And that was kind of
how good.
Everything kind of stuck for me that day as a goalkeeper. Like the quality of players that we were playing against, like they're national secondary schools reps, but they hit the ball pretty hard, but everything kind of just stuck in my hands, making saves left and right, apart from 1 goal that went in. But yeah, the moments for me as a player, I'm more the support role. Like one of my best mates scored 100 for his cricket club. I was batting with him at the time. I celebrated just as hard.
Yeah.
As a number 2 goalkeeper, the amount of best team man awards I won at the end of the year, which is basically you just get a little silver thing for clapping on the sideline. But that's kind of, I'd happily do that.
Those awards, if you get it once, okay, maybe that's a one-off. But if you're getting it consistently, what it says is that, how much you're contributing from that perspective is very much appreciated. And that's one of the joys of sport, the connections you make, the people that are there showing up every week, no matter what, even if they're not the best players. And when you've been that in between sort of ability player, you've had that experience of being the star of the day or that person that just makes up the numbers in different teams as well. And I think that's when you have played that sort of middle role, you can understand how important it is for one when you're at the top to hear the good stuff, but also when you're at the bottom, just how much you need that lift as well, right?
Oh, totally. Like just thinking about it now, like one of my prized possessions was a bronze that we won at a secondary schools tournament. And, it kind of really, really shits me actually when you see professional players, runners up, they get the medal and they take it off straight away. And you're like, show a little bit of respect first. Just go off camera and then take it off, but don't do it straight away. So for me, winning a bronze was amazing because I knew, as a player, I'm probably not going to get too many. And actually, just to kind of loop it into Swaney again.
Yeah.
I remember there was one. There was a yearly cricket tournament that he and his mates kind of set up. And one year he got me to play, and I got that as best bowler, which I still have. I don't think it actually happened the year after that. That was probably the last year that it actually happened. But
so you're still the champion.
I'm wondering if I should have given this back at some point, but yeah.
No, it's yours, mate.
Like it's any awards like that, I know my capabilities are pretty limited, so I'm pretty thankful if I get recognition, because I don't really chase the recognition as such, but it's nice to hear someone say, yeah, you did a pretty good job there. Yeah,
absolutely. Just quickly on that, you said that respect. For those who haven't, go back and listen to Rach Taylor, who was a silver medalist at the Sydney Olympics, and her talking about just because it's all about the expectation, right? If you've got no expectation to medal and you get a bronze, well, that's the greatest thing ever. But if your expectation and all the results prior says you're going to win gold, and you don't, I think that's where that level of disappointment comes in. And she talked about just how many athletes feel the guilt and shame around feeling upset because the rest of the world's telling them they should be enjoying the loss when every part of their being, and again, being a highly competitive person, I could totally relate. Like, yeah, I'd be gutted as well. Like, you come off the field even in a club game, just gutted. And in a lot of ways, I watch some of the younger athletes and like, I don't know if they get disappointed enough. But that might be to quote from Ange, that could just be me being an angry old man waving at the clouds too.
Yeah, true.
There's definitely something for that around how people react to different results.
Yeah, totally.
a lot of what you talked about today, the stories and the storytelling and the moments, it, again, to me, just reiterates what a fantastic training ground sport is for life. So whether it be from playing or in your broadcasting career, is there a lesson that stood out for you that's really helped you continue to overcome different challenges?
Is there a lesson? Yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't know if there's ultimately one lesson. I think it's a combination of a few things. Like ultimately, it's about enjoying what you do and kind of doing it the right way, like doing it with respect, treating others with respect around you as well. Like ultimately, for me, as working in a team as a producer, our goals are essentially the same. So we kind of need to be helping each other, and I think that applies in a sporting environment as well, in a team environment. The ultimate goal, everyone's trying to get there. You can't really be individualistic.
Yeah,
you can to a certain degree, but if that's your main, if you're being selfish, you're going to get found out eventually. You need the support of others around you. So that's kind of where I think, show your passion, try and be the best at be the best you can be, but you can't do it at the expense of everyone else.
Yeah,
I think that's the most important.
Yeah, and you think about some of the people that we've referenced today, like that's exactly the sort of people that they were. Like they didn't have to, but they've passed on those messages. Talked about Simon Hill, about Clarkey, Swaney, like good guys that know how important it is to pay it forward, which is why it was pretty cool when I reached out to you and a couple of other people saying, I know this young bloke who wants to get a start, will you speak to them? And every single one of you said, yep, absolutely. Because you know how important that is for people's, not just for their confidence, but their livelihood in a lot of cases.
Absolutely. Like as I said, my professional career, I didn't really have the connections to kind of reach out to. So I in a way, I kind of had to do it by myself, but I knew that there are going to be people willing to help you out. I don't think or if there is, it's extremely rare. Either in this, in what I do as a sports person, any kind of walk of life, has done it all by themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nigh on impossible. You need the help of someone or a group of people to kind of get you to that next step and get you to your ultimate goal. So, for me, it's respect. You got to do things the right way.
Yeah, I love it. And you never know when that helping hand you gave to someone or the kind word you gave someone is going to pay back to you at a time just when you need it. And whether you believe in karma or just how life seems to reciprocate, like how you show up, it's like it's going to pay it back. So
absolutely,
it plays into that. It's more important to be a good person than necessarily be looking to get something out of it. The universe or however you want, again, life, karma, whatever, it'll repay tenfold. So I love
particularly in media. If you help someone out, they might end up being your boss. So you've got to be very careful.
Absolutely, it is quite a small cross section of people, isn't it? Everyone seems to know everyone, so you want to make sure you're keeping those connections. Go on.
Funny quick story. I remember having this conversation with Shem. I was like, I kind of want to do this full time. You got any advice for me? And this first one was, don't. But then second was, because it's such a fickle industry, and things will change on a whim. But he said it jokingly, but I kind of got the point. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Well, Robbie, thank you for sharing your story and sharing some of your great moments from sport. Mate, it's been a cracking chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ian.
Welcome. That's a wrap on today's episode with Robbie Feldmann, and a reminder of the power of sport to shape who we are and how we show up. As you reflect on this chat, think about how these lessons can shape your own life game plan. Finding confidence by leaning into challenges, not avoiding them. The power of mentorship, both giving and receiving. How storytelling and sport can bring people together in ways that really matter. And the importance of being respectful and paying it forward. These are the exact lessons we build into the game plan training, giving you the clarity, structure, and confidence to lead with purpose in whatever game you're playing. If that sounds like something you're ready for, check out the link in the show notes. You've taken the time to listen to this whole episode. Now it's time to take action. Commit to one thing you've learned today and make it happen. And to avoid any obstructions, join the Sport is Life movement by clicking on the link in the show notes.